Welcome to Nightmare Echoes. Listen, scream, and embrace your horror obsession. In this episode, we cover the found footage movie As Above, So Below. If you were to dig, how far down is hell? What does this stone do? And who's the man they meet on the tour? Next week on the podcast is Eli Roth's Thanksgiving starring Patrick Dempsey. But first, As Above, So Below. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Nightmare Echoes. I'm Elazar. I'm joined again by co-host Steven. Steven, how's it going?
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good. Today we're covering As Above, So Below. It's directed by John Eric Doldil, who directed Quarantine, which is the Wreck remake, The Podesky Tapes, and Devil. Starring Perdita Weeks. I'm sure I butchered her name. Is Scarlett. I don't know a lot of other things she is, but she recently directed an episode of Magnum P.I., so she might start directing soon.
Perdita?
Okay.
I think so.
Yeah, and then we have Ben Feldman as George. He was in Cloverfield for a few minutes there, and he was in the Friday the 13th remake in 2009. We have Edwin Hodge as Benji, who was in the Purge movies, which I loved him in the Purge. And then we have Francisco Siva as Papillon, and he was from the 2014 Rosemary's Baby remake, the miniseries. Anything to say about the movie before we start?
I thought it was intriguing from the beginning. It seemed like an exciting storyline.
Yeah.
It didn't start off slow. It started it was action-packed from the beginning.
Yeah.
But it didn't feel like a traditional horror movie. Like, I think about all of the other horror movies that we've talked about, especially the beginning. It just didn't seem like that.
Yeah, to me it felt like either Indiana Jones or Lara Croft. Like, let's go exploring, find some ancient artifact that has some religious ties to it maybe, and discover whether or not it really has powers.
It seemed very much to me like Indiana Jones. I made that connection.
Yeah. We're going to go into the whole movie. I do love this movie. If you want to go watch it, I totally recommend it. Came out 2014. It's a found footage horror adventure, I think. It's a lot of fun. All right, so the movie starts with Scarlett Marlowe, our character. She's traveling on a bus into Iran, and she's going in there. She knows that it's illegal to go in this part of the area. As a single woman trespassing, she knows that the punishment is to be buried up to her neck in sand and have a stone wall tossed on top of you. And she wants to point out that she definitely did this journey on her own free will. No one forced her to do it or anything like that. But she's going in there. She meets a contact named Reza, and we go into his house, and we find that his house connects to a series of tunnels, that there are alarms blaring to let us know that it's about to be demolished.
I didn't catch it, but they were talking about how they're going to demolish that whole area.
Right.
And what was the reason for that?
I don't know. I don't know if infrastructure or just because maybe they thought the tunnels were a network for something going on that they wanted to put a stop to.
But she wanted to get something from the tunnels before it was demolished.
Right.
There were some really important artifacts and information in there.
So she's following, well, we'll find out in a little bit, for her father's work. And the guy, Reza here, hints at that she's following her father's footsteps. And the last clue that she had is that this key is here in Iran. It's called the Rose Key, and she believes it's hidden somewhere. So she finds this wall in this exact location it's supposed to be. She says that there's more here to that wall that we're seeing, and she starts to get her chisel out and hammer to try to free some of the text. Reza's freaking out, like, hey, you can't destroy that. That's ancient. And she's like, come on. The whole thing's about to be demolished. It doesn't matter. Then she breaks down this wall and finds this ancient-looking, kind of Egyptian to me, looking statue of what reminds me of kind of like a Stargate, where they have those helmets that the Egyptians gods had and stuff like that, which I thought was interesting. But on it has all these different symbols and writings, and she records them all with her camera because she can't sit there and write them down. It's all about to get demolished. And Reza wants to leave really fast, saying we have to go. She films the rest, and then she starts running. The explosions start happening. When she's out there, I think she sees a quick vision of a man hanging. Reza's able to pull her back into his apartment as the explosions are still going on. He tells her that following her father's quest is a way to madness. And
oh, yeah. His path was a path to madness. And she mentioned that her father had spent his entire life working on this, and so I guess it kind of drove him to madness, according to that guide she had there.
Right. And he
Raza.
says that anybody that hunts for Flamel's stone is crazy, and they all wind up dead. And then we get our title card that gives us this cool shape of like two triangles on top of each other, or one's upside down, so a diamond shape really. And the words mixed together, and then in the middle we get two lines that say "as above, so below."
I had a question for you, because the only way that I would have ever known about Philosopher's Stone and Nicholas Flamel was from the Harry Potter series.
I knew you were going to say that.
And I was wondering if you knew about it.
I definitely did.
Before.
Because I read a lot of books. I read a lot of fantasy, I would say, and definitely other types of magic users in books. And that is something that people have always sought after. They always believe it's going to give them either riches beyond belief or eternal life. I definitely heard of all of that before Harry Potter came out.
Oh, that's cool.
So then we see that she's getting interviewed in this documentary that's being filmed by a guy named Benji. She introduces herself and all her ridiculous amount of qualifications. She teaches at the University College in London. She has a PhD in urban archaeology, a master's in chemistry, and another PhD in symbology. She's fluent in 4 spoken languages and 2 dead ones, and she has a black belt in Krav Maga.
But she needs someone's help to translate Aramaic.
Right, yeah.
Which I was like,
she can't
what?
know every language in the world, which I think is totally plausible that she would not know them all.
Yeah.
And if you're going to make friends with people, you would want to make friends with people who have different skill sets.
Right, yeah, they complement each other.
Right,
so I was
exactly.
really excited that she didn't, because I do like George's character who knows Aramaic.
Right. So Benji asks about her search and her adventures. He does make a comment asking if her father was crazy, because she mentions that the reason she's so accomplished is because her father pushed for it. He pushed for them to study all the time and to just learn as much as possible. He asks about her father, if her father was crazy. She asks because he killed himself. She says that no, he wasn't crazy, but you could tell it's like a kind of a touchy subject for her. She then gives a tour all over the area for anything that pertains to Nicholas Flamel. We see where he used to live. We see where his and his wife's caskets used to reside before some grave diggers pulled them up. Then those grave diggers found that the bodies were not where they were supposed to be. Then we show Flamel's tombstone, which is hanging on a wall. It was carved by himself, so he carved it before he died, apparently. This gravestone is where her father believed had symbols on it that would tell you where you were supposed to go to find it. But to do so, she needed the rose key, which is something she has now located. And it is in Aramaic. And so she says, luckily, she knows someone that speaks Aramaic.
Yeah. That was the cool artifact that she got out of Iran.
Yeah, unfortunately, she couldn't save the statue.
Oh, yeah.
But
she scanned it, or
she scanned
filmed
it.
it.
Yeah, she filmed it so she can get a language. So then we see Scarlett and Benji breaking into a church. They go to an area they're not supposed to be at. Benji's like, what are you doing? But he follows her. She says that her friend loves to be breaking in these types of places because his hobby is to go to places where they have something that's really old but broken, and he likes to just fix it. So they find him on top of this church fixing the clock that hasn't worked in like 284 years.
Yeah, 284
right.
years.
And so he's up there, but he instantly wants nothing to do with her. He's like, nope. And she's like, I didn't ask it. He goes, oh, I'll save you the trouble of asking. I'm not interested. You find out that the last time they were together, she left him in a Turkish prison. And she says, well, it's more like a jail. And he's like, oh, yeah, Turkish jail. Like, that's a vacation spot.
Is a big difference
right.
there.
But you could tell they've had a past together. I think he definitely still has feelings for her, but he's hurt that she would abandon him like that. What wins him over is this quest for knowledge, because she tells him that she found the rose key. He asks, was it in Iran? And she says, yes, it was.
And this is George. I do like his character because of the fact that he's fixing these old things that are broken.
Right.
He's awesome.
While they're talking, the clock starts moving again. They run to a balcony to see. All these onlookers are confused because it hasn't rung in their lifetime. And there's just, it's crazy to see all of a sudden the clock is working.
George is ecstatic. He's like,
big time.
Look at them hearing their church bells ring for the first time in 284 years.
Yeah. We cut to George talking to a woman who can let them get access to the gravestone after hours. And you could see right away that Scarlett is jealous because she's like, oh, that's a really pretty woman. And Benji adds, yeah, she's got really nice legs too. Which I think did not help the situation.
That was George that said that?
No,
Or-
behind
Benji,
the
who
camera.
was in the
Right.
cameraman.
He's behind the camera
Okay.
because she's standing over jealous looking at him talking to this woman.
Oh, because George was talking to the other girl.
Right, exactly.
Got it.
So then afterwards, she's like,
That
oh,
doesn't help.
how do you know her? He's like, oh, work circles.
I think she has feelings for George, too.
Yeah, exactly. They get there to the gravestone. They're talking about the symbols and translating them. And then she makes this leap that because the key is on one of the characters' backs, that the key is actually on the back of the gravestone. Now, of course, no one's going to want to lift this old artifact off the wall. But she starts lifting it, and if George didn't jump in to help her, it would have hit the ground and broke. So she forced him to grab it with her. They lay it down. She then starts putting everyday cleaning chemicals on the back of it and then lights it on fire. Both Benji and George are like, this is not a good idea, but then it does reveal a hidden message. And George is like, whoa, that's pretty cool. It's not go to jail cool, but it's pretty cool. I like that. So they take a picture of the back of the tablet and they put it back so they can study it later. What they bring out is translated to winged vultures lead the way with brightest light in darkest day. Unearth the heavens reign. What is lost shall be regained. Halfway twixt the darkest gate and the tablet laid atop a paired fate.
And they figure this out. Or
Yeah.
George and...
So they
Scarlet.
say that 741, that alchemists believe that 741 was the number for the devil. And that they're saying that this thing lives, or where the stone resides, is halfway between that. So that would be at 370 and a half feet beneath where the tombstone originally was supposed to be.
Right,
Not where
because-
it's now in a museum, where it was originally put.
So if we dig down to 741 feet...
Well, 370.
No,
half.
but I'm saying that
Oh,
if we...
yes.
Would we...
Well,
We'd reach
according to
the gates
them,
of
we'd
hell. We'd reach hell.
I would say well, we'll go into it, but I think this movie puts that as the
I started digging at home. I'm-
highest level.
Okay, because I was wondering.
No. You
I
mean
started digging
literally?
at home. Yes.
No, okay. No, not going to
Yeah,
happen.
no?
I'm not
I'll
going to help
stop
you with
digging
this. No, but Benji has no idea how they're going to do that because he's not versed in all the history of this area. They tell him, oh, this place is filled with 200 miles of catacombs beneath it, where they are in Paris. It holds something like 6 million corpses and is the world's largest gravesite for human remains. They just have to get a map of it and look at the locations. So they pull out a map, they start looking, and they see where they have to go. They go on a tour. Just Scarlett and Benji go on this tour of the catacombs. And there's a woman giving a tour. Scarlett stops to translate this one thing over the doorway that says, stop, this is the Empire of the Dead. They break from the group, and Scarlett finds they would need to go a certain distance beyond this wall, and they won't know how to get there.
They want to go to the off-limits area, and they need someone to take them.
Right, and there's no direct route. Right. Then a man overhearing this tells them, go to the club called Le Showcase. The guy that's sitting over there is writing in a book. She goes over to ask him what he said, and he says, ask for Papillon and tell them you want to go there. Just then the tour guide gets them to rejoin the group. She's like, hey, come on, you can't leave the group. And when they turn back, the man is gone. Do you know who this man is?
No. I
Okay,
didn't catch
I'm
it.
gonna go through it.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
I was curious how much you know about this, right? So they're joined again by George, and they're going to the club. On the way in, a woman in a white dress looks creepily right into the camera, and she seems a bit ghostly. She walks away, and Benji's captured it. Then everyone's in the club. They're making their way through easily. Everybody knows who Papillon is. As they're filming, Benji catches the woman looking in again through the windows, and then she disappears. They found Papillon, and he's sitting with his girlfriend, Suxi, who they refer to as the Banshee. He tells them he isn't a tour guide, and she's like, do I look like a tourist? They tell him that they found a secret tunnel. He knows the maps well, and they want him to take them to find it. He says that he would have found it if it was there, and she says you wouldn't because it's made to look invisible, and he wants to know why. And she says that there's some kind of treasure. He goes, okay, fine. If we find the treasure, then can I have half of it? And she's like, you can have all of it. And George jumps in, half is fine. And I don't think it's because George is being selfish. I think it's because no one would believe that you're taking them not for nefarious reasons if you claim there's a treasure and you want none of it.
That
right?
makes sense.
Right. So if you want half of the treasure, that seems believable. Your group that you're coming with us, you can get half. Me, George, and Benji are going to get the other half. That seems like a likely scenario.
Yeah. It's still kind of sus that she's like, oh, you can have it.
Yeah.
Like, okay, why are you going then?
Right. Are you leading us all to our deaths? So the next day, they're in a van near the entrance. Papillon is giving the group the rundown. We meet his friend Zed. We already met Suxi. George keeps insisting he's not going to go down there, so he refuses the gear. He refuses boots meant for going down there. He refuses a helmet. Scarlett tells Papillon that George is coming, so I think Papillon does bring equipment for George. George is like, you could just call me. And Papillon's like, no, phones don't work down there. It's too deep in the catacombs. It's not going to work.
I thought it was interesting here that the group sort of mentions all the dangers that can happen when they go down in the catacombs. So run out of batteries with no flashlight, run out of water, get hurt, police, bats, rats, claustrophobia, drowning bugs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Setting the
yeah. And then we have this ridiculous scene where they encourage Zed to do his De Niro impression. He does that, and then he tries to freestyle rap, and he's really bad at both of these. But they encourage him. I think he's that friend that thinks he's good at stuff, and then you just like, yeah, do it, man. Everybody loves to see that, but he's just really bad at it. So they pass through this broken fence onto some railroad tracks, and we see that it's tag, which is PAP exclamation point. So PAP, right? It's a brand of art on his wall, and this is going to be important later down the road. Before entering the tunnel, they all put on headlamps. The camera is set down, so Benji is placing certain headlamps on their heads that all have these built-in cameras. So this is the movie's way of showing us 4 different perspectives, because he says that he's camera A, and he gives out camera B, C, and D to different characters so that we can get all this footage. And so the footage could be later found, right? Then the characters all walk to this small hole. And normally in the podcast, I have a segment titled How Elazar Would Die in This Movie. But this is why I would live, because I wouldn't fit down that hole, and I wouldn't be stupid enough to go down there because I didn't fit. Now, maybe Elazar in his 20s could have done it.
Okay, George didn't want to go down either.
But he fits.
But
right? So Elazar would have been arrested right here because the cops show up. And that's fine, because I would have lived, right? But I would say that me in my 20s, I was way more into Pilates and yoga. I did travel to Southeast Asia, and I got to crawl through the Vietnam Chu-Chi tunnels, I think they're called. So the longest we went through was like this 90-meter tunnel, and you did have to crawl all the way through. So if this was me in my 20s, I would have died in this movie.
Well, in this case, since you mentioned there's death, the police are actually saving lives, which is interesting.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. Papillon tells George, you have to either decide now. You either go in this hole or you're not. Scarlett tries to tell him he's going to regret not coming, but that's when the police arrive. They tackle Papillon. They all flee down there, even George, because he has no choice. It's either that or getting arrested. When they all arrive, Papillon lights 2 smart bombs and throws them back to stop the police from following, which gives them time to get away. Now down there, Benji gives George a headlamp. George seems upset. Benji asks Scarlett what he said that was wrong, but Scarlett lets him know that, and really she's letting the audience know that George's younger brother died in a cave when he was really young, so George doesn't like to talk about it. And so he said he's sorry for what happened to his brother, but he doesn't want him to go to jail.
And he doesn't want to go into this enclosed space of talking about the dangers like claustrophobia. Yeah. George is very uncomfortable.
Yeah. In the tunnels now, we get another tag of Pap. So he's like, hey, the cops will never catch me. He taps his tag sign and they keep walking on. George said he should have wore boots because of the high water, and Papillon reminds him that he offered them to him, but he did not take them. Then we get out of the way. How is this camera going to survive going underwater? And Scarlett says, oh, we have a splash bag for it. So they get that out of the way. I don't know what that is. I don't deal with cameras. Is it real? I don't know.
Yeah. You can basically use the camera underwater with that splash bag.
With the splash bag. This is great. All right, Papillon points down. This way is a really cool room if we were to take a left, but we don't want to go there, so maybe some other time we get to go there. Then Papillon finds evidence that other people are here because there's some burnt out candles that are still warm. And then they pass by a cult that is chanting. They got white face paint on. And then the woman leading the chanting is the one that was looking into the camera at the club. Did you notice that? It's the same woman.
Right? Is that the connection? Yeah. I didn't notice that.
Right. Okay, then they come to a section where they have to crawl over human bones, and Papillon recommends that they crawl with their hands covered so they don't cut them off. George complains that Papillon is a crappy tour guide, and Papillon's like, hey, I told you I'm not a tour guide. If you want a tour guide, go back up there and you get a tour guide. Scarlett wants to go on this more direct route, pointing out that this rocked off tunnel is a direct way to get there. And Papillon tells him that sometimes the wrong way is the best way. She points out that if you look on the map, that this is the way to go. And he tells her, does this map tell you which tunnels are filled with water? Does it tell you which ones are collapsed? Or does it tell you which ones are evil?
Yeah, now you have to appreciate Pap's knowledge and expertise at this point.
Right.
But I wanted to point out one scene that I thought was really good was when Benji was crawling up and the bones are around them, and he sort of has a freak out moment.
Yeah.
And you can hear that group chanting in the background.
Yeah,
And
they keep getting
it's
louder.
a really eerie scene.
Yeah.
I like that part.
Yeah, but before that, though, he tells him about his friend Lataupe, which translates to the mole. He lived in these tunnels for years, and he knew every inch of them except that tunnel that Scarlet wants to go down. Then one day he went down there, and no one ever saw him again. And he adds that if they go that way, they will go without him. Suxi and Zed both say they're going to follow Papillon. George says that Papillon's right, that if the stone's been down there for 600 years, what's waiting a few more hours?
Yeah, and Papa was also saying that this is a bad place, and that was repeated
Yeah.
multiple times. And as you mentioned, the mole went in there and didn't come out, and it was just very clear as a bad place. They didn't want to go that way, but Scarlet is dead set on it.
Right. So this is where Benji gets through. He gets stuck. He starts to panic. They start singing louder, which is driving Benji crazy. Scarlet works to calm him down because he's starting to hyperventilate. Then he's able to start moving again. The bones collapse. The group pull him through, and the bones fall down, sealing their way, so they can't get back this way.
I liked how Zed was also hit. They were talking about rats.
Yeah.
And Zed screams like freaking them out.
Pretending, yeah.
And messing with them.
Yeah, he's just pulling a prank on Benji, which I think is great. So now they can't go back the same way they came, but when they look, they're back at the wall that Scarlet wanted to go into. And they're like, hey, I thought you knew these tunnels. Did we go in a circle? And Papillon points out in the map that it's not possible. If you look, this tunnel goes straight. We're in this tunnel. This wall isn't here. It's not here. This doesn't exist. And it's like he's trying to say, I don't know what's going on, but this isn't reality.
Yeah, how did they get behind the wall? How did they get there? And he doesn't know where they are, and he's been in there many times. Yes.
So now that their pathway back is blocked, they have no other choice but to go down this tunnel that Papillon is called Evil. Now, if you've read the book Dante's Inferno, right, the rest of this movie is going through the levels of Dante's Inferno. Now, while at this point they're about to go into limbo, this is where the message that they read later that they say is written over the gates of hell should have been. Where Dante's Inferno, the message would have been here before level 1. But they read it much later down. But anyway, I just wanted to point that out. So they go in there, they go through this evil tunnel, and the first thing they see is Papillon's classic Pap written on the wall, like spray painted. And they accuse him of lying.
How could it be there?
He swears he's never been there. He's not lying. Then a phone starts ringing. Papillon tells him that phone companies used to run lines down here, but they got rid of them all 50 years ago. George points out that they're in a spot where buildings collapsed hundreds of years ago and people fell to their deaths.
Hundreds of people fell. And then Pap also points out that 50 additional people disappeared when they were sent to fix it. And there's a piano.
Yeah, so they find this piano. Benji said it could have fell down when the collapse happened. George says it looks just like the one that him and his brother Danny had as their kid. They only knew one song, which was My Bonnie Lies Over the Ocean. They could never finish it because the A4 key was broken, and he plays the same song, and when he gets to the A4 key, sure enough, it duds, and he's like, what the hell's going on here?
Yeah, it's like his piano as a kid.
Right. So Papillon's kind of scared. He's saying none of this should be here. We get a phone start ringing again. Scarlet runs after it. Without the group, they have to run after her. She picks up the phone, and the voice on the other end says, why won't you talk to me, Scarlet?
That's crazy.
Then, out of the darkness, La Taupe comes out saying that you shouldn't be there.
The mole says, you shouldn't be here.
Right. He then says they never came looking for him. He tells them now they need to follow him. He seems not to need a light, though, to see down here. He could see without light.
Just like Mole.
And they also don't notice. They look at the group like, hey, let's follow him. And when they look back, he is way further than someone could get to in the amount of time they had. Like he teleported. And they're like, wait, how did he get there so fast? Which is pretty crazy.
Yeah. And moles can't see. They're blind. But he can make his way around.
Sure. He doesn't need I guess he doesn't need light.
He's sort of like Michael Myers.
Okay.
In the sense that in the Halloweens he would just like appear out of nowhere.
Oh yeah, he's totally teleporting.
Just like teleporting.
Oh yeah,
around.
I agree on that. We see them rappelling down a shaft We're seeing this from George's camera, which is camera D. As Scarlett makes it to the bottom, Benji is still at the top. George gets stuck and Benji comes falling down, colliding with George and stopping, saying this clip broke. After they are down, they are bandaging Benji's hands and they start walking down the path. Now they're in level 2, which is lust, which we can only see by the loud welling noises that are happening here in this area. And so George falls, lands in some water, and then all of a sudden all their voices get muddled. They clap and it's inaudible, and then a loud wail comes through. They all have to cover their ears and rush out, and we see a glimpse of a little boy with black eyes.
Yeah, and this whole time they're going down because they've determined that the only way out is going down. They can't go up to get out.
Yeah, and I think Latoop at some point here says the only way out is down,
Right.
which doesn't make sense to me. Like, wait, no, that's the wrong way. Okay, so then they ask, what was that? And Latope says the question should be, who is that?
What was that? Latope says the question was not, what was that, but who was that?
Yeah. Then he leads him to a room that seems like a dead end, but then George points out to Scarlett that there's a carving of a winged vulture, and together they find the next clue that leads them to thinking that the tomb is hidden in a way that pharaohs would have hidden them, with a polymetic hinge. Scarlett reveals it's a sort of ancient Egyptian padlock. Then they have to go through all this puzzle to figure out which is the right stone to pull, or else, and they ask, what is the or else? Is like, well, then this wall collapses and we all die. And they logic out how many planets would have been in this sky 700 years ago. Would the sun been considered a planet? Would the Earth been considered a planet? How many have been discovered? And that kind of thing. So they figure that they need to pull the 7th stone, and that opens this tunnel.
Yeah, so that's the trick hinge, if they pull out the right stone. And it's strange because they have to know a lot about the history here of humanity basically determining how many planets were in the sky, specifically like Western European type culture and history, and figuring out that there were 7 planets. Interestingly, they considered the moon as a planet.
Right. And I like that while Scarlett does know so much, she really needs George as his sounding board where they together solve these puzzles, because without each other, I think either one of them would have died. And I think this is why I like this movie, because I like movies like Cube and Escape Room, where groups have to work together to get out of this kind of scenario. Those are some of my favorite types of movie, and I think that's why I've become obsessed with this movie.
So George is the one who correctly guessed the 7. Yeah, because they were working together to determine that there were 7 planets identified at that time.
They go in, they find Flamel's body, and it's very preserved because he used the Philosopher's Stone. George thinks...
No decomposing after 700 years, which is insane.
George thinks they're in the right room, but Scarlett knows there's more. She asks the groups to all turn off their lights, and Benji doesn't want to because he's scared to be with a dead body in the room. And then once they all do turn off their lights, they see this light coming from under the water. Scarlett and Papillon remove enough stones to make a passageway that's swimmable. She rushes in to swim without even asking the group, just goes in.
Now, this room that they were in, though, I noticed that everyone's ecstatic
when they get there.
They find it, except the mole. He's kind of like calm demeanor, not excited. It was really strange to see that.
Are you talking about the room with the body or the room with the treasure?
Oh, sorry.
We haven't made it there yet.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, all right. So Scarlett swims through, and when she makes it through, she sees that there's treasure behind these metal barred doors. There's also a wall with symbols on them, and there's maybe a stone slab that someone can use as a bed. I'm not sure what that section of the room was for other than that. George is the next to go through, and he finds her. She hugs him, saying that it's real, though the rest of the group come in, and this is where they're very happy about the treasure. Yes, except Latope, who looks like a zombie.
He's just not excited at all. His calm demeanor is it's really creepy. I found it interesting that the torches were lit, and the characters mentioned that. Mm-hmm. And Scarlett explains that it's because of the Philosopher's Stone. The torches remain lit.
Yeah, it can fuel anything for eternity. So now they seem to be on level 4, which is greed. And it's possible that the group doesn't have anybody that's really gluttonous here because we really skipped through level 3, right? And I think the version of this hell is just focusing on the characters here and their personal sins. So nothing happened to anybody that was effective on level 3. She reads the hieroglyphics on the wall and tells the story of the sun and the moon and leads them to a spot on the wall, which is the stone. She pulls out the stone and comments, what a better place to hide a stone than next to so much riches. Then she realizes the other people are going to be obsessed with the treasure. She tries to stop them, but the whole group pulls off the metal door. So she's too late. It's a trap. The ceiling starts to crack. They have a big cave-in.
Is Latope gone for good now?
No.
I think
He disappears.
it seems like he was because he kind of got crushed and they were calling for him and
Right.
so there.
Yeah. So Zed breaks his nose and Suki is trapped under some rubble.
Her arm gets
Yeah.
gets hurt badly.
And they have to get her out. Latrope seems to be behind the rock formation, but they were worried about moving the rocks will cause a further collapse. So again, Papillon has to decide to leave his friend behind for dead. Suxi's arm is cut badly, but Scarlet pulls out the stone and uses it to heal her arm, and they're all shocked that this would work. And then I wrote, instead of that, she doesn't here try to heal Zed's nose because it's broken, right? But because she could have helped his pain. But if she would have done that, she would have realized that this is a fake stone right here. Right?
Oh.
Because there's another injured party right here. She could have been like, oh, and I'll fix your nose. Wait, why isn't it working? She would have realized here that it wasn't the right stone. Which I guess for plot reasons she didn't, but I find it interesting. Scarlet and George reasoned that they would have never built a tunnel like this without having a back door. And so the group all look around. They find a clue on the ceiling that refers to a door to the mystic. And then it shows on the wall the symbol that stands for as above, so below.
Porta Alchemica?
I guess so. This leads her to say that since they carved a door to the ceiling, then the actual door is on the floor.
Now, another interesting thing here is that Scarlet, I think, mentioned that this is the key to all magic, which is kind of gives you a chill. It gave me the chills when she said that. I was like, whoa, what else is going to go on here?
Yeah. So Papillon says there's nothing below them because there's the lowest level that the catacombs can go. And she starts hitting the floor under the water, and then we see the water start to rush down like it's being flushed away. She's like, okay, well then where's all the water going? She starts to descend first. She finds a room. The rest of the group follows, and they find a message here. George translates to say, abandon all hope, ye who enter here. Which they point out, which is written above the gates of hell in Dante's Inferno. But at this point, they're definitely past level 5. So it's interesting that this is where it would be written, right? Mm-hmm. But this is where the mirror of the rooms happens, where like things are different on this side, which is interesting.
Yeah, you have to wonder what's going on at this point, because as above, so below, I'm thinking it is sort of like a mirror.
Yeah.
And what's above you is below you. And I like how they created these scenes showing them going through these tunnels and sort of created this labyrinth for the group.
I like it.
Yeah, it was very confusing at times.
So in this new tunnel with this phrase written on top of it, Papillon doesn't want to go. Scarlet points out, I thought you didn't believe any of this, but you know the whole time he's wary of going anywhere that he thinks there's evil. And then Scarlet quotes to George, and they shall be made to crawl onto their bellies to enter the kingdom of darkness. As they get to the next room, they think that everything is exactly the same, but Scarlet points out that everything is the wrong way around, and this symbolizes them passing through the center of the earth. Even as this symbol, as above, so below, she points out is upside down.
Now, up until this point, this movie felt a lot like an Indiana Jones kind of adventure movie.
Sure.
Now sort of some horror aspects are starting to come out. And just an hour in, Pop noticed that the entrance from which they came disappeared, and there's some other strange stuff that's starting to happen.
Yeah, so one of the first things is they get to this side of, I guess, below, who knows. We find Flamel's tomb again, but this time his corpse is decaying. Suxi approaches to find Latopus here, and when she touches him, asking him if he's okay, he grabs her, smashing her head on the ground in a very violent way, which means the group has made it to level 7 of hell, which is violence.
He kills her.
Yeah. So it's all ways that people die is supposed to be related to something that happened in their life, and we don't get her backstory. But this has to mean that Sux was somehow involved in killing someone in a violent way in her life.
That's
that
what I was thinking.
We never
yeah,
cover.
and more is revealed about each character
As they
it
die.
Builds their character as to sort of what their fears were in life. We already know George was
Yeah.
afraid of going into this cave because his brother had drowned. So there are other characters that we don't know their backstory until things like this are happening.
The group asks to check on her, then they ask Benji to keep a light on Latope, but he seems to have vanished. Papillon tells Scarlet to fix her, and she tries even though she knows the stone will not bring back the dead. As they crawl to another room, there's another loud siren can be heard.
There's strange noises going on all around them.
When Scarlet appears at the other side, she sees a noose, but when she looks back, it is gone. Then they find another big hole that's boarded up, kind of like the top of a well, which leads to another shaft that's 100 meters down, which means at this point they will now be 1,000 feet down.
So the group keeps going in circles, deeper and deeper, and it appears that a lot of it is a mirror image of what they've already done too, which just builds this labyrinth even more and more as the deeper they go.
Right. As Benji's getting ready to go down, he looks back because something causes... It looks like something doesn't feel right to him, and they ask if somebody's there. He hears something, and then the ghost of a woman carrying a baby jumps and scares him. And the next thing we see is Scarlet and George see Benji's body hitting the ground from a 100-meter drop.
He hears the crying of a baby.
Right.
I caught that. Yeah, he was
hearing
this crying of a baby.
This could mean that somewhere in his life he has a child that he abandoned, or a woman and a child that he abandoned, or denied that he was the father. I'm not exactly sure, but all we get from the movie is this woman trying to show him a baby, which scares him into his death.
Right.
After this point, Zed is holding Benji's camera.
That's, yeah.
So
I didn't catch that right away.
Yeah.
I was like, wait a minute, Benji's dead. So who's filming now?
Exactly. So I think that was interesting, right? So he must have taken it when he went down, so Benji would have had an easier time of going. No, because that didn't work, because we saw him react to the woman. Oh, unless his helmet also had a pin camera. I don't know.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, because they had cameras.
He only talked about giving out B, C,
headlamps.
and D. So maybe his headlamp was A, and he didn't letter the actual camera. But anyway, this is how all the footage so far makes it so it can be found, right? Because all these characters, Zed, Scarlet, and George, are the ones with these headlamps on. And Zed is carrying the camera. As they're crawling past this pile of bones, George starts to see visions of his brother Danny drowning in the water.
And he hears, "Help me."
Scarlet tries to tell him it isn't real, but he asks why would Danny be in this place. Then the 4 remaining people hear screams in the distance. They slowly walk towards the screams.
I like this part. It's sort of like classic horror. There's yelling, like a man being tortured. There's clearly fire in the distance. It paints a very horrific picture.
Right. And then we see this car's on fire, and inside is the same man that told Scarlet to go find Papillon.
That was the man. That's the connection that you made.
So,
perfect.
When Papillon sees the scene, he starts saying it wasn't my fault, but then he starts getting pulled towards the car. The group tries to hold him back, but the man comes out of the car, pulls him in, then the car implodes immediately, and in the end result, Papillon is buried upside down with only his legs and feet sticking straight up out of the ground. Now we're in level 8, which is fraud. Since Papillon wouldn't admit that the car accident was his fault, this is punishment for his fraud and deceit. They try to pull him up, but to no avail. Now we do learn through Scarlet's reasoning later that the key to surviving this would be to admit what you've done wrong and ask for forgiveness. So if Papillon's reaction here was, I know I was responsible for this car, I'm sorry, please forgive me, he might have survived this.
Yeah. And so it's interesting that you mentioned that, because now they're starting to admit truths. The characters want to talk about what happened in the past and bring it up so that they're not trapped like the other members of the group.
So Zed obviously wants to still try to save Papillon, but they tell him that there's no point, he's already dead. They start walking toward these noises are growing louder. It scares them into running, then they hide. George looks at Scarlet and tells her what happened in Turkey was the greatest week of his life. And she says it was hers too. As they enter level 9, they see a hooded figure in a chair who moves.
The guy in the chair, he's wheezing and moaning, and I just had a premonition at this point that maybe these characters aren't going to make it out. This was an awesome scene where this black hooded character was sitting in a chair, and he gets up. There were lots of faces and bodies in the wall, too.
Mm-hmm. They all look like they had their mouths open, like they were kind of like Han Solo in Carbonite. They all look like they were frozen in pain the way their mouths are open like that.
Right.
Now, I don't want to skip that. That figure is supposed to be representative of Satan, because in level 9, the one who sits in the chair is Satan.
Oh, I
in
didn't
hell.
catch that.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But then, as they try to hide from that figure along the wall, one of these people that's trapped there in the wall reaches out and grabs George and bites him. Zed is able to knock the figure away, and the two of them drag George out of the room. Scarlet here tries to use Philosopher's Stone on his neck wound, but it doesn't work. George is there in pain and dying, and he says the word vitriol, which is enough for Scarlet to understand that she needs to reflect on her mistakes, and taking the stone was wrong, and that this is why it's the wrong stone. And so if she were to put back this wrong stone, it can give her the correct one. So she tells Zed to take care of George, and she has to go all the way back to level 5, which is kind of crazy, right?
Yeah.
So
Just to abandon them. At this point, I'd be like, are you kidding me? You're going to leave me here down here at level 9?
So he freaks out because he doesn't want her to leave, but then she says if she doesn't, he will die. So she runs off, leaving Zed there holding this cloth around George's neck. She runs by the camera, which is on the ground, which shows her running off in the distance, which is a really cool found footage shot. She takes out the wandering stone spirit creature by slapping it out of the way and continues past Benji's corpse. She ascends the 100 meters, then passes the rivers of blood, where these hands are now coming out trying to grab her. So all these things that weren't bloody before are now bloody, because they've made it to level 9. You're not supposed to ascend the levels of hell. She comes up. She sees a hanging man who she believes is her dad. She then pulls off the hood, and a woman's face tries to bite her. The floor also has mouths that are trying to bite her. She swims back through the blood to the original room to put the stone back. Once she puts the stone back, she says, I'm reflected. Where is the hidden stone? Then she notices the mirror, which she cleans off and sees herself. So from what I can tell, that means that she has the power inside her now, and she is the stone.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
Right? So,
Yeah.
but
There's a lot going on here. I mean, she's basically running through the other levels. And I wanted to mention the bloody parts. Are very gruesome. She's basically going through pools of blood at one point. It's all over her. And yeah, I found it interesting that she talked to her dad, who was hanging, too, sort of following George's advice and facing things.
To ask for forgiveness for not picking up the phone when he had to cry out for help.
Yep.
On the day he killed himself.
Right. And
which
so
is intense.
That goes back to the scene from earlier in the movie where the phone was ringing. She answers it.
And in the beginning where she saw what looked like a noose, a man hanging on a noose, when she was in
Iran.
In Iran, yeah. I also want to say that this mirrors the events in the movie Smile, which I know you haven't seen yet, because the character in there, as a kid, her mother took too many pills to commit suicide, then regretted it, and was calling the little girl for help, but she was too scared of her own mother to make that call 911 to ask her mother for help. So now as an adult, she goes out of the way she's a psychiatrist, and anytime the phone rings, she's there to pick it up, even if it means working 80-hour weeks, because she doesn't want to be the person that didn't pick up the phone when picking up the phone could have saved someone's life. So that is a cool parallel between that and Smile. All right, so now we cut to Zed, who is seeing 3 hooded figures approaching them, and he turns off the headlight, and he asks George to make less noise, which I wrote down like, hey, man, I know you're choking on your own blood, but could you do it quieter? As she passes the river of blood, she quotes the as above, so below line, and things seem to get less and less bloody, and the hands pull away. This time, her dad is hanging there. She gives him a hug. She tells him that she's sorry, that she didn't pick up the phone because she didn't know how much pain he was in. Then the body disappears, and she's having to admit what hell wants her to have come clean about, right? On her way to Zed, this time she does pick up the camera. He calls back, and she is able to find them. She places her hand on George's neck and gives him a kiss and pulls the hand away, and the wound is just healed because she is now the stone. The 3 of them run. The hooded figure is on their trail. They find another opening. Scarlet says they need to do a leap of faith, explaining they have to rectify themselves and then jump. She turns to George and asks why his brother has haunted him. He doesn't want to say, but she encourages him. George says that when his brother's leg was pinned, he told him he would get help, but he got lost on the way, and Danny died waiting for him to come get help.
I think Zed has to face something here, too.
Yeah. He says that there's a child that he has never seen, he's never admitted was his, even though he knows it really is. After they all come clean about this, they then grab hands, even though they don't want to jump. She says they need to go. George doesn't want to go. She says she won't do it without him. So he jumps with them. And on 3, they all jump. And they do this massive, awesome slide to go pretty far down. Who knows how far underground they're supposed to be now. When they land, the way they just came through closes up. And Zed starts to panic. Then they notice an opening down below them. And they clear the rocks. And it's a manhole cover. They both try to pull it up.
But here's the weird thing. Because... it's a manhole. They're looking down at it. Yep. So they
you would
try
think
to pull it up.
Right? But then Scarlett like slips and she puts her weight on it and it pushes down. And George is like, "What did you do?" She's like, "I just pushed it down." And so they all work to push it and slide it over. And then the camera goes up first and we see that the world is upside down. Not the camera upside down. The world is upside down. They all come through and they all realize that they've come through upside down.
As above, so below.
Yeah, and it's just an amazing twist that happens here. That's just
pretty cool.
So shocked. Yeah. So all 3 of them have a hug. Zed surrenders his headlamp. I would like to point out that all the characters that were given headlamps survived this movie, so all the footage could be found.
Okay, so the lesson here is if you ever go into a creepy catacomb, wear a headlamp.
Right? So Zed smiles and walks away, and I want to say I really hope he goes to find his child.
Hey, so if I ever finish digging the hole in my yard, will you...
No, I'm good.
Will you come with if I give you a headlamp?
No, I'm not going to do it. There's no Wi-Fi down there. All right. And then Scarlett hugs George, and they start to cry. We see a clip from Benji's documentary from the beginning where he's talking to her about being a treasure hunter. And she says that she's not a treasure hunter. She's a student of history and alchemy.
Scarlett says, "People say that I am a treasure hunter. That is not what I am after. Yeah, I want the truth." Which is interesting because all the characters basically had to face the truth there at the end.
Yeah. I liked it. I tried to go read Dante's Inferno. I got a fourth of the way through it. It's a hard read. It's written in a way that I do not speak. And I got about a fourth of the way through it. I ran out of time. But yeah, I like this movie, man. Did you like this movie?
I thought it was amazing. Yeah, it didn't have the normal horror movie type. I didn't get that sense from it. It was more of like an adventure drama type movie to me.
Yeah.
But then, as I mentioned, about an hour in, that's when the weird stuff started happening and typical horror things where the violence happened on, what level was that? Level 7. Yeah.
I would say that I loved the found footage aspect of it. I've become kind of obsessed with found footage lately. But rewatching like the Blair Witch Project, I could see how people get motion sickness from that movie. In this movie, I didn't feel it. I was so invested in the adventure and the characters that I didn't notice anything wrong with the way things were being filmed. So I liked it a lot. That was a positive for me about this movie. Mm. Also, I think the main actress was great. I was surprised she's in more things that I've seen. I mean, she's got a lot of credits for an episode here or there. I know she started directing now, but I'd love to see her in more horror movies.
Yeah. And I wanted to mention that vitriol is an acronym for a Latin phrase, and I'm going to butcher this up. So I'll just say what it means in English is visit the interior of the earth and purifying you will find the hidden stone, which goes back to what exactly happened there to Scarlett. Right. Like she's finally facing the truth and sort of purifying herself by going through her pain and suffering that she experienced with her dad, and then she finds a stone.
So I guess that leads to the question. Since she is now the stone, she will have this ability to maybe heal people whenever she chooses to.
This is interesting.
She'll probably live longer, maybe not forever, but maybe into 150 or something. Like I think Flamel is supposed to have lived for a long time. And then will her corpse never rot? I mean, what does that matter? But it's just interesting questions that I think about. She's got to have powers now.
And this is another reason why I like George's character. I mean, this dude's really smart.
Yeah.
He doesn't list off all of his credentials. For all I know, that he doesn't even have a graduate degree. But this dude knows
super
stuff.
Smart.
Yeah.
Yeah, to be able to fix things that are hundreds of years old, it's pretty
knowing
cool.
These acronyms and such.
I like them. All right, well, thank you for being here, Stephen.
Thanks. Bye, everybody. Next
week on the podcast, Margot and I are covering Thanksgiving, because it will be Thanksgiving week. So hope to see you then. Bye.
Bye.